Thanks for checking out today's episode of The Experience Curve, where we explore the personal journeys of accomplished individuals, breaking down the steps they took to get where they are, which I hope just might inspire you on your own path forward. On today's episode, I'm thrilled to talk with Joy Jenkins, founder of My Joy Beauty. Throughout this episode, you'll discover the pivotal moments that inspired a transition from a corporate career to entrepreneurship, growing a side hustle into a full-time business, insights into leveraging social media to grow a brand in today's digital age, and the importance of adaptability and resilience in overcoming obstacles and driving business success. As a former corporate professional turned beauty entrepreneur, Joy brings a wealth of experience and firsthand insights to the table. Her path from navigating the corporate world to building a thriving beauty brand serves as a source of inspiration for those seeking to follow their passions and forge their own paths to success. So whether you're a budding entrepreneur seeking guidance or simply curious about the behind the scenes of building a brand, this episode is sure to offer valuable lessons and inspiration. Hey, good afternoon, Joy. Thank you for taking the time to join me today.
Great. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm very excited to get into talking with you because the idea behind my podcast is sort of like exactly what your life story is, right? And being in that corporate world and taking that jump into entrepreneurship and being like your own boss. So like going back to that time, like, it seemed like maybe you were constrained by like, the glass ceiling or, cultural limitations in like the corporate world. Was there like maybe a pivotal moment, maybe a realization leading you to sort of say, okay, I just need to go in a different direction?
I think throughout my life and my corporate career, even when I was younger, I've always looked at a side hustle, but I never considered a side hustle as a full-time thing. So I needed that creative outlet. And I think in corporate sales, I was fortunate that I knew that a big deal was coming and that I was going to get a big payout. And what better time to kind of enjoy time with my family to, take a break from that burnout. And during that time is when all this really materialized.
I get it, because a lot of people, I think, when they're contemplating that, and again, I've talked to people in the past where, side hustles can be lucrative. I mean, they can turn into your full-time job, your career, your business, but giving up that corporate paycheck, where, like every 2 weeks or every week or however you get paid, there is some, again, taking out the whole like, oh, you're an at-will employee versus maybe you're on a contract, so you do have some sort of a guarantee. Either way, a lot of people do feel comfortable when they're in that like full-time, salary positions. Like, did you have personally any like fears or doubts where you're like, I don't know, this is kind of nice to give up, I don't want to really give this up, or or were you like, all right, I'm ready to roll?
All the fear and trepidation came through, no question. And honestly, I didn't perceive at that time that I was just going to go all in and go dive off the cliff and go viral on TikTok. I mean, that wasn't kind of my intention. I thought, while I'm taking a sabbatical, I have the opportunity to always go back, but this is going to force me to get going. So that was kind of my attitude going in, that I was going to go back into corporate and, that would be my next step, and that my corporate job in some ways was alleviating the strain from putting money into the business, because I didn't want to use anybody else's money.
That's a good point, because there are a lot of people who are like, well, I'll take a loan or I'll take this and then the interest. And you start to, now that becomes like another stressor for some people versus like, all right, yeah, I might be tapping into savings or wherever it might be, but at least I don't have anyone else that I'm beholden to get this idea to life.
True. Yes.
And for people listening, like around what year was this that we're talking about?
So this is 2 years ago when we officially kind of launched the product. And while I was still in corporate, I was using weekends and just time during COVID to formulate my ideas and things like that. But we launched 2 years ago.
But prior to that, I believe you were doing like at-home solutions, correct? Is that correct?
I've always been in software sales, but and we were virtual in what I do before COVID. So even though we were traveling a lot to see customers, and sell our solutions, and we would have the option to go into offices for account planning or things like that. So I was very accustomed to home officing, and you're on a conference call, you might be doing laundry. you know Now we're a lot more Zoom focused, so you are kind of concentrated on camera a lot.
Yeah, yeah. So you're kind of used to that game by at the time where yeah. So were you taking like, obviously corporate background, right? The influence, your approach to like problem solving. So when the pandemic hits, if we back up to like 2020, it wasn't much of a hit for you because you were already kind of used to that. Is that safe to say?
Yes.
So basically when you decided, okay, I'm going to ride this pandemic, I'm already kind of used to the setup. How about like when you came up with like going back to like branding, right? Like starting with branding, I guess, right? My Joy Beauty. It's captivating, it's evocative. Was there like an inspiration? Obviously, we know your name, but like the overall branding and why you came up with that or how you came up with that.
Yeah, no, thank you for asking. I had been coached in corporate America to do what we call, a vision board, or you have to sort of know other brands that are similar to yours that you emulate, or know more about your competitor in case you want to sell against them, right? So I had done some digging, and what I could say is it's as simple as going on Amazon and saying, I want to sell wine or something, like anything with your label on it, and looking at what the top sellers are, what's the bad comments, the good comments. And so in the branding, I had been thinking through all of that. What is, one thing I can do? And so to answer the question about branding, I had started out in this whole side hustle vernacular, thinking that I met a girlfriend who quit her corporate job. She went and got her microblading certification. And I'm fascinated with like Anastasia, Beverly Hills, the brows, everything. And this girlfriend told me that while she's doing my brows, I'm like, tell me, Heather, how much money what is your revenue? Because I'm looking around and I'm thinking she's making a lot of money. And she told me $50,000 a month. And I thought, good Lord, all from this. And you do the math, and I got into it really quickly. I said, so you're seeing 5 to 7 people a day, which is really hard to do when you think about tattooing your eyebrows. And I just drilled down into it. So immediately, while I'm still working, I went to get my certification. It's kind of a loose term in Texas to do eyebrows and tattooing, because I wasn't going to go off and go become an esthetician. That takes a lot of time, a lot of money. So I'm thinking, gosh, I'll just open my own studio, rent a booth somewhere, and I'll do X amount of brows a week until I find out what I'm going to be doing with my products. So my Joy Beauty didn't start out as my Joy Beauty. It started out as Joy Brow.
Okay.
Yeah. So came out with a brow kit. And I guess that's important, because when you're looking at launching a product, several people had said, don't start out with a kit. And I was like, don't tell me what to do. It's my company. I want to do it. So, so I did. Well, I found out right away that getting customers to come and do, this procedure, which is invasive, is really difficult and challenging. So there was a lot of pivoting between where I started around the brow kit and the whole thing around being a microblading artist, thinking that, oh yeah, if she's making 50K a month, I can do it too. And that led me to, that process led me to the next step, to the facial oil, which is our bestseller now, and our lip oil.
Oh.
That's the long story short.
No. That's pretty interesting. Like, so when you're kind of coming, like, so you already had, was it like a target audience that or target client, I guess, target audience, whatever it might be, when you're starting out back then, when you said, okay, it's just you renting the booth? Do you have a target client, or is it just like, I just see this revenue model and I want to figure out if I can replicate that?
And the latter. I saw the revenue model and I was like, I know who my target audience was. It's me. It's, what later then turned into looking at other similar brands and looking at, you've got to have an avatar. And I've got literally a whiteboard with who my buyer is. She has a name. I know what she wears. She's driving an SUV or a Tesla. She's going to get her Starbucks. She just got off, her exercise class, and it is very detailed on knowing who she is and using some fun phrases from my friends who, love our products now too. So that's important to know, like your avatar.
Absolutely. No, that's a good point. So I think some people feel like they can reach everyone. Like, oh, I just do a brand and everyone likes it. It's for everyone. It really, it can't be. It has to have a specific customer profile, right?
Totally. Yes, it does. And I think that it's not so much about, there's the brand and then there's the product. And I think where some people, even in my own family, my stepdaughters, teenagers, different people who were using some of the products were saying, this is fine, but I'm going to go off to Ulta, Sephora. I'm going to go, use my money to buy more products online, Instagram and things. So I think it's important to know that sometimes we happen to, where we are right now, we hit the lot. Like we've got great, awesome products that people love, but starting out, it's not about being perfect. You've got to just kind of take the leap and get into it. And then I think you figure out your way along the way. And that's what I've kind of done my whole life, whether it was in corporate America or like what we're doing today. I mean, social media is a huge challenge.
Oh yeah, we'll get into that for sure, because I definitely want to talk to you about your strategy, because it's been very effective. But going back a little bit more to like how you transitioned right to My Joy Beauty, like what was the sort of trajectory from like, okay, I'm just testing out to see if this revenue's for real, to like, okay, now I'm ready to roll with my brick and mortar studio kind of thing.
Yes, brick and mortar, I kind of figured out I wanted the name Joyology. And I looked at all these things of like, what is your joy list? And obviously it's my joy list. And so I had everything that makes me happy was going to be in the store. And all my friends were like, yes, we're coming to Joyology. I started looking at real estate. And as you can imagine, it was ridiculous. And so another pivot. And I met someone who works with beauty brands who chose to work with me. Her name is Melody Bachman, and she specializes more like in the hair care segment. But I took a free class online, met her online, but she's from Texas. She's launched over 3,000 brands. And through that channel, the pivot, to answer your question, and the trigger that kind of put me to where we are now is she told a story of how she was affiliated with the native deodorant. I don't know if you're familiar with that founder, but he's a gentleman that graduated Harvard Law, and he did not want to practice law. And I don't know him, but I'd love to meet him. He left law school and came up with native deodorant. He had 5,000 units, and in 3 years' time, I want to say it was 2019, he sold the brand for like $150 million to Johnson & Johnson, which native deodorant now you see everywhere. You see all the native products. And I couldn't get that out of my head. I was like, if somebody is doing that and building a brand, why can't I do it? And I don't need $150 million, but wouldn't it be nice to build a brand and be valued at $10 million?
I'm about to say, yeah, 10% of that, whatever it might be.
Yeah, exactly. So that really got me to your question. Like that was my trigger point of saying, do it or die, get into it. I worked with some consultants who worked with other beauty brands, and I was hooked. I was obsessed, thinking if they can do it, I can do it. And, we're still in the process, and I've just learned a lot about it. It takes 8 years to kind of build a brand. And I made some notes on a podcast I was listening to just a week ago, and the numbers are kind of staggering. It was like 18 to 22% of entrepreneurs make it to 1 million in revenue and 1% make it to 1 million. And so I think there's something to be said with women in business, especially. And this is for, that was a stat for women owned businesses. Why not try? I mean, you got to try. So that's what we're doing.
No, I 100% agree. It's like that's the emphasis of this show is like, you got to try. Don't, because you're gonna look back and be miserable in life if you're like, okay, now I'm 100 years old or whatever it is, and I just never tried.
That's right. And this is way more fun.
Exactly. You're having fun. You're being your own, boss. You just seem like you have a lot of fun in the act of building the business, right? With the boards and right, like the avatars, and it just seems like it's fun for you to put together.
It is so fun. And I have paid, some of my own money to do different things that did not work. And that's where you have to go back to the drawing board and say, okay, I'm going to try something else. And I mean, that's what we do every month.
Well, like speaking of that, right? Like when you're first getting started and marketing, obviously you had your avatar, right? And your customer, target what down to what she drives, right? Like, but how about for like marketing promotional tactics that, maybe were the most effective when you were getting started?
Yeah, I had a lot of people making a lot of different recommendations, and it reminded me again of my corporate days of you ask one question and you get 18 different opinions. And so I really stuck with my gut and thought, I want this to be organic. I'm going to go with what I know. And it's very old school. Like you got to establish your credibility. How do we do that? We get followers. How do you get followers? You use old school phone calls and texting and like emailing. And so I think through that, I was really proud. I mean, really 2.5 years, we're up to about 12,000 followers on Instagram. And that was all sort of organic on my part. I did do a few trunk shows. I learned really quickly. I mean, trunk shows are a lot of work, but I was, and am still open to a lot of opportunities, but now I'm more into what's it costing us and what's the return and what would the following be? I mean, sometimes you're giving up a lot to establish your credibility in that marketing. I got lucky that I wrote some beauty editors on Instagram and messaged them and sent them emails. And similar to my corporate role, I would have to do 8 or 9 messages before I would get a response back from a CFO or CIO that I was targeting. So that part is easy for me. That didn't scare me. I think in today's world, young women who come to me and want to start a brand, they just think, oh yeah, I'm going to go get my product and then it's going to go viral on TikTok and we're all going to be like the Kardashians tomorrow. And that's not the way it works.
Yeah, reality check of like life, So you're kind of getting so when you have that out there, like customer feedback, testimonials, does that play a role, right? When you're shaping the direction or maybe just even like refining products where you're like, okay, we thought this worked, but now we're getting a lot of feedback that it's actually, we should be doing this.
Yes. And I even started with some friends of mine at a retreat. I took the products, passed them all out and said, you guys, please, as a favor, like refer me to your friends. I will give my product away if you will give us a review and be honest. And that, I mean, it starts snowballing, but that gets you out of your immediate friends and family. And when they're referring you business and putting posts out, say, hey, just you're looking for hooks on folks to give you reviews. I mean, there were times that I focused heavily on that in the beginning, along with writing beauty editors to get mentioned in write-ups, and all of that was free. Most of it was free. You can do paid engagements also, but it's nice. Even recently, we had a mention from a beauty editor that I had targeted last year. And she said, I just want you to know that we have ordered your products and how unusual that is for us, because normally we get all these products for free. And we wanted to do a write-up again this year about my Joy oil being like in the top 10 of our favorite products. So we use that again to repeat and reuse from last year's mention. And, it's just gratifying to me. That's one of the fun parts of the job.
Yeah, right. Getting back that, like, okay, I know I'm doing the right thing, or my idea was not, it was definitely for the right reasons that I thought when I jumped into this and all this hard work I put into it, right? And I think you did touch a little bit about social media in the beginning, and I'm very curious, right, about the strategy you used or use, to grow your brand, right? Like what platforms when you're getting out there are you focusing on for people listening, like in similar spots that you're in, how you were years ago, not now, but getting started, like,
I mean, getting started, I think it's your warm friends and family. And for my age bracket over 50, like I used Facebook. And so then it was learning how to do a business page on my Facebook. And then I cut my personal Instagram page because I started, taking classes and figuring out there's a lot of everything is out there online, whether it's free or if you take a mastermind class, like it's out there. And so I just sort of built the blocks of, what I learned through some of those free seminars and created the business Instagram and really followed. There's some great people out there guiding us even still today. Amy Porterfield, there's a long list of people who offer a lot of intel for free. And so I would encourage anybody it's so doable, but I think where people, in my viewpoint, when I watch other people get started, they get caught up in that it has to be perfect. And as I started engaging more people who've worked with other beauty brands, they would say, you've got to stick with one thing until that one thing is, you don't need a whole line of makeup. You don't need beauty brushes. You don't need all of these things. Start with the one thing and learn from that, and then build your brand from there. Because if you go back to the model of the native deodorant, I mean, that's what he did. He only had one product. And today when you walk into a store, there's 25 or more products of the native brand. So I just did a lot of homework, and that was more my DNA from my past of, working in corporate America and chief marketing officers and things like that, differentiating between the brand and then how to engage with social media. And I will say, we just launched on TikTok several months ago, and that age range of our data says that it's young women between 18 and 23. Well, Facebook is more like 35 to 55. So I'm fortunate that I hired my niece, who that sort of came up in a very roundabout, unexpected way, but she's now head of my marketing and does all of our digital marketing and social media. She was teaching, and it just turned out to be such an unexpected blessing for me to turn that over to somebody that knows everything about social media versus me trying to figure it out. And I'm now more focused on our direction, the product, and, sales and revenue.
yeah, like in the beginning, was it you doing your own social media, or did you kind of bring her?
I was doing everything. And I guess I should point that out a little bit more, because hindsight, because we've only been doing this for 2 years, the fact that I was doing all the heavy lifting, I did our logo. I did everything. So I started with my own photos, hired a photographer, started with the first round of professional photographs. I had never done a professional photo shoot like that. And it was so much fun. We just had so much fun. And so now it's kind of a quarterly thing where we're updating those things, and we're in a much faster rhythm now that I kind of know the ropes a little bit.
So you'll kind of do like a seasonal thing, like every quarter or so,
Yes.
kind of like a what's going on, kind of keep it relevant and fresh.
Yes.
But bringing on your niece now, like, 'cause, you see like these TikTok shops, you see, right, all these kind of like newer way, and then news 2 years, obviously, even it's not that long ago, but in the sense of how fast this technology, like, who would think TikTok 2 years ago, you'd be like, oh, I have to go to this. I'm shopping there now. You were just like watching people dance, right? So now it's evolved, right? So have you utilized these platforms or even like maybe influencers? Is that something that you might consider to help further connect with this like, target?
Absolutely. I mean, we just started a business Pinterest page, and that was all Megan's idea. And she took it from zero. I mean, literally zero followers, except for her and I. And now we're getting over just under 20,000 views. So when I say organic, I mean, and this is getting out and just doing it. You've got to execute. And so she started that. We are on TikTok, and it's we're still trying to figure it all out. There is, I will say this, I mean, there are nuances to setting up TikTok shop, and I think it's the hardest thing ever. They don't make it easy. We do have our lip oil on, but I don't have the facial oil on because I'm not really sure what our direction is on TikTok. I've got low expectations because it's really just not, I'm not passionate about that audience. I really am into quality and not so much the quantity. And ultimately, my goal is to get us to QVC, where you keep the exclusivity of your product, you develop other products, and then you sell your brand. So that's kind of what my short and long-term goals are.
No, hey, I mean, those are great goals to have. I mean, looking at your site, it does feel very refined. It does feel like it's just a very clean brand. You know what I mean? I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah,
It feels trustworthy. It just feels, relatable, I guess, are the words that come to mind for me, just visiting it.
that's awesome.
Yeah, that's just me being probably not the lady in the SUV that's buying, right? But my layman review. But this might be more of a long, or maybe more of a interesting question in terms of how a product, right? When you develop a product, and again, a product obviously could be a brush, and that might be a lot quicker of a assembly line process than in oil, but I don't know because again, that this is not my world. But when you're kind of developing a product, is there a way you can kind of walk me through or walk us through from your mind to like the product in your hand, how that works in for My Joy Beauty?
Yes, absolutely. It's a very fun process. So, and I'm looking forward to doing it more. So there's a lot of, as we say in the South, there's 9 different ways to get to Walmart. So I'm going to tell you the way I approached it. You can start out like Jamie Kern Lima, who founded It Cosmetics, and I'm a huge fan of Jamie Kern Lima. She started out It Cosmetics in her garage and ended up selling it, largest selling brand to L'Oreal for $2 billion. So, and friends with Oprah. So we love Jamie. If she comments on my Instagram, like I screenshot it and immediately use it in marketing, like that's the holy grail right there. But we did not do that because I was looking at revenue and cost analysis on how much is this going to cost me out of my pocket and what is the profit going to be. And so I began researching private label companies, and believe it or not, there are not that many in the United States. I wanted to do business in the US, and let's just say I built a spreadsheet with the help of Melody Bockelman and companies she had been doing business with also. And I started reaching out to all of these private label companies for samples. Sometimes you will pay for those samples, and sometimes they will send you them for free. And ultimately, I was looking at brow products because I was passionate about brows framing your face. And, our brand is for your everyday mom, average woman, businesswoman, whomever you are. It's really, what is the one thing you can do to make yourself feel amazing that day? And we don't all have a glam team or, some people do, but like, we all want to have that feeling that we're taking care of ourselves. But sometimes in my experience and sort of where I grew up, my experience is you can do one small thing and it can be life-changing. I mean, spray tans, life-changing. Getting your hair highlight, life-changing. Getting just, going to work out and feeling amazing after, life-changing. So when I think about our brand, I wanted to be like, what is one thing that somebody can use and it can be life changing, whether wherever they might using it, like, are they using on their hair, their skin, their nails, like cuticle oil? So I had sent out for all the samples, working with all the companies. And what I like to say about that is it's like you're dating these manufacturers. You have to figure out which one you're going to marry, because when you enter into that marriage, you have to decide, are they going to run out of products? You don't want to be on back order. Are they going to be flexible with your packaging and your labels? Or do you have to send your product off to another company? And I designed my own label just online. There's many programs to do that. And so I wanted a turnkey operation that when I place the order, they fill it in the bottle and then they put the label on it and it easily comes back to me for fulfillment. I learned a lot through that process, because when you get to a certain threshold, that's when you want to outsource that fulfillment. And that's kind of another whole discussion, because shipping comes into your profit. And we don't have boxing because I wanted people to open up our product and feel wonderful. I wanted them to smell everything like, you get this in the mail, this is what they're waiting for. And not only are they so excited because this is their third or fourth order utilizing our product, but we have affirmations, we have stickers, and just, I think sometimes handwritten notes go a long way being a smaller business. And so we won't always be able to do that, but that's what we're doing now. And the feedback has been really great. And I still maintain contact with a lot of these manufacturing companies who offer private label. And it is so interesting. It's really up to the individual entrepreneur who's starting your own brand. How do you want to position your business, and how do you want to work with these companies? It's very, very different for each company.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was going to ask you, like working with vendors, obviously they have different goals in mind, objectives for their business, and you do yours. Your product, right? It's like, hey, I have these like rigorous standards, of quality service. Like, how do you sort of ensure that that's going to happen when you choose a vendor to work with?
Yeah, I think for me, I have done so much research. My research is my life of buying every beauty product out there. And that's who my buyer, my avatar Jennifer is. She's used every eye cream, every serum. She's been to every dermatologist. She's tried every at-home scrub treatment. And the bottom line is, we're spending all this money on things that don't work. And I do know and talk a lot about, there's a lot of beauty brands out there that have a lot of filler and chemicals, and they're very expensive at some of my favorite stores like Neiman Marcus, where they're putting out these brands and the products are really not good. I mean, they're not only not good for your skin, but somebody's making a lot of money over the synthetic products of who's making and manufacturing those. And so I had a long list of like, here's what I don't want. I don't want a woman to feel like, hey, I just spent $300 on this eye cream that we've all bought. And not only is it crap, but it doesn't even work. And I mean, the worst case scenario is having a breakout or having an allergic reaction that happens to like all of my friends. So I am proud to say that for both my Joy oil and my Joy lips, we have not had one return. We have not had one allergic reaction, because my manufacturer is all natural. It's all plant-based, and we don't have to sacrifice luxury to say this product isn't as good as Dior lips or some of the favorite products out there. It's actually better. And I've learned from my customers, like at our trunk shows and things like that, they're the ones sort of teaching me what the differentiators are. And so that's another fun aspect and very gratifying, very validating.
Yeah, it's true. It's like when you have people that, just they trust your brand, right? And having those out there, like you said, the testimonials, the feedback, the comments on social media, that just, I mean, social proof, of course, but just for your own well being, like knowing, hey, like what I'm doing is not only do I believe in the business and I believe that it was a good idea to start the business, it's actually making a product that is helping people.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, like, and I always kind of like look back at, okay, so you were in corporate for so long, and me myself too. Like I always look back, like, is there anything you? I'll kind of throw it a different direction. Anything you miss about the corporate life? Like now that you're your own business, you're an entrepreneur, you're having all this fun. Is there anything you might look back and say, I kind of missed that aspect of when I was in the corporate world?
Yes. And full disclosure, I started back with a software firm about a year ago. And that was one of the reasons for bringing my niece on to help me. It wasn't so much that I was missing corporate America in terms of culture and the grind on Zoom these days. I mean, it's so easy to burn out. I think I believe in synchronicity. I believe in things happening for a reason. And I did have a unique experience with a former colleague reaching out saying, we're going to make this so easy for you. We would love to have you. You're going to create so much value for our team if you can join us. And, they know that I have my own company also, but I also have a lot of autonomy in my job. And so I do appreciate the ability to finance my side hustle and have the appreciation of the benefits of a 401k and the health benefits and things like that. It's been a really unique opportunity. I don't know, hopefully it'll last for a while, but I am not taking the pedal off the gas of my side hustle anytime soon.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it. I think that what you're doing is like, just seems like a lot of fun, especially when you start to involve family members and just kind of seeing it all come to life and just grow and grow and grow. So I would imagine there's been, or have there been unexpected like lessons you've learned or benefits. You're like, I didn't really expect this from starting a company that, I wouldn't have known if I didn't start one.
Yeah, I gotta say, I mean, looking back, there's so many things that are unexpected. There is an unexpected excitement and exhilaration of saying, I cannot believe that I'm doing this. That's the good part. The bad part is when I'm walking into a trunk show in Aspen, Colorado, and going to an exclusive boutique store about to bump into celebrities and different things like that. You're thinking, oh my gosh, I've got huge imposter syndrome. Like this, I can't believe this is it. So what I've learned from all of that is it's just worth it. It's worth it to take a step and try, because it absolutely is the funnest thing to do. And, we're not valued at even 1 million yet. We're not valued even half of that, but I know that I look at the crescendo of growth and setting goals just like we do in our personal life. And the fun thing is waking up and saying, we're either going to have a lot of goals this month or we may take a break this month. And we haven't really done that, but it's great to see the validation of the orders and the people who are loyal customers, and then to figure out how can we pivot and try something new. And it's okay if it doesn't work, then you pivot and you try something else. So I'm really excited about there is part of me that thinks the pioneer in me loves taking the road less traveled to figure it out. And I would just say there's a lot of joy, no pun intended. Like there is a lot of satisfaction in being in that position.
No, that's great. And how about like when you're thinking so far, because it's been a couple of years. How about the most thing you're proud of of what you've achieved so far?
Oh my goodness. I was told by one of my coaches that we need to keep that list in front of us. And, and we actually added that to our newsletter, and I call it the joy list. So I said, make your list of things you're proud of and then put your name at the top of it, because it's really hard. It's really hard to do that. So I'm proud that I took a risk to go to the microblading class that I was terrified over to start the journey to put us where we are now. I'm proud of the fact that last year we were in Bazaar and Good Housekeeping, featured as, key products for different time periods. I'm proud that we've grown and that I was able to hire my niece in a very unexpected time and manner. And, I'm very proud that I know we're going to be successful if we just keep our consistency going. And I'm speechless kind of to think about it, because I know that because we've come this far, we've got a lot further to go, but we can do it. And this is what we were meant to do.
Yeah. And I think for a lot of people starting out, they always feel, okay, what should I be doing? Where do I start? Like, what's the best path? Because like you said, maybe it could be 8 years. It could be this till for your brand and all these numbers and statistics and stuff that go through people's heads. But in terms of someone that's just hesitant to just even take that initial risk, like that initial, it could just be as simple as like, hey, start it as a side hustle. But what about advice you would give to someone listening that's in that, I'm just kind of afraid to take that the risk to leave my job?
Yeah, I mean, I would say good is better than perfect. So you can't have it all at once, but you can have it all. So go after it, go get it, prioritize. I mean, I have a 10-year-old son. He's first priority, my family, my job, my faith. Like, there's so many things. And I think in our age that we live in today, in this Instagram world of everyone seeming to be perfect, it just seems like, well, they have a Harvard degree, so they come from a trust fund family. The list of excuses is really long. And I don't come from any of that. I barely graduated from a college that was barely accredited. And so I love to use that in my business, world, at my corporate job as well. I mean, I've been very successful in software and tech, and I'm not a technical person, but I think that you just have to go out and try something and expect that good is better than perfect, and then prioritize accordingly. If you need to outsource and pay somebody to do your laundry, or figure out, like, as working moms, that's why we're working. It's not because you've got to have a homemade dinner, organic food, and you've done 3 hours of yoga that morning with, perfect hair. So it's okay to put on a ball cap. It's okay to order pizza. It's okay to admit that you do yoga, and it's okay to put in some time at the job while you're doing your side hustle. And I think women are okay. Jennifer, my avatar, is okay with that.
That's good advice. How about like for yourself, like goals, aspirations, like where do you see My Joy Beauty, or where do you want to see it go 5 years, 10 years here, whatever it might be? Where do you want to see the brand going? Obviously the $100 billion sale, but
Yeah, no, my goal as of, since we started, was to build the brand, increase the valuation of the brand, and we want a shot on QVC. So we're working through what those prerequisites are, which seem very easy, but it takes a lot of calculation because you only get one shot. So we're working through that. And I know that if we get on QVC, we will sell out. So you have to be prepared for what must be true to sell out on QVC. And that's literally what we're working on in real time.
that's cool. No, I mean, I hope you could get on that, because that would be amazing. And if that's the goal you're trying, that's a very attainable goal that's not that far away, right? So you can see that reward come much sooner than you would think. And how about for people that they want to connect with you? They will obviously look at your product line. Is it myjoybeauty.com?
Yes, you go to our website, our Instagram, same thing as Joy My Joy Beauty, Facebook, Joy My Joy Beauty, Pinterest, My Joy Beauty, and TikTok, Joy My Joy Beauty. So we're pretty consistent. I'm on LinkedIn under Joy Jenkins, and same thing. So love to. Our email, I think, is info@myjoybeauty.com. So love to hear from feedback, comments, and any constructive criticism is welcome.
Now that's what I was going to say. Like, even with your friends in the beginning, with people, hey, write me an honest review. And I think that that's you willing to put your reputation of how high a quality a product you're offering to people just goes to show. Cause you do get a lot of people that are like, hey, can you give me a 5-star review? Can you, and you're like, okay, but like, did I get a 5-star service? And you're just like, hey, give me an honest review. And that to me speaks volumes as to like what you're offering and how good of a product you have. So
Thank you.
no, thank you. Thank you for taking the time today to share the story with me and everyone else. Again, for your time today, thank you so much for sharing this story. And everyone check out myjoybeauty.com. And thanks again, Joy.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to this episode of Experience Curve. Please take the time to share this podcast with a friend or colleague to help get the word out about my show.